absolutely unique place. This is a landscape that's dominated by wild rivers, wild forests. Along the entire eastern seaboard, this is the most undeveloped landscape that you'll find. Here in Maine, we have loons and eagles and bear and moose, and we have the wild Atlantic salmon, an endangered species, and this is the species that we're working to restore.
The salmon like it where we got what we call riffles, where the water's kind of agitated like that, and there's lots of rocks on the bottom. They don't like a sandy bottom, they like a rocky bottom.
Atlantic salmon play a big part in the history of Maine, and it's a wonderful species that people have, I think, appreciated for many, many generations. And as the populations have declined, people have lost interest or knowledge about the species. And we have an endangered species in our backyards here.
It's so important that people understand what a part of the culture and the economy salmon were. The Downeast Salmon Federation was formed by hunters and anglers, and you have to keep in mind that Washington County, as recently as the late 80s, people came from all over the world to fish for Atlantic salmon.
There were people that would come to this area for their entire vacation. Week to weeks, they spend it all right here fishing for salmon. That doesn't happen anymore. And in the 90s, the limits for fishermen went from 2 fish a day, every day, and that was from April 1st to October 15th, to 10 fish a year, then to 5 fish a year, then to 1 fish per year, and then to catch and release, and then no fishing. And that's where we are now, no fishing.
Well, salmon has a very complex life cycle, and it's very mysterious in many ways. There are a lot of questions still. Why do the salmon return to the river that they were born in? And in fact, we know now not only do they return to that river, they return to the very stream, if not the very stones that they were originally hatched from, the very location.
Average Maine salmon about 9 pounds. 12 and 15 pound salmon, not uncommon. Unlike Pacific salmon, Atlantic salmon can spawn multiple times. So they may come back to the river and spawn, go back to the ocean, come back the following year and spawn again. Those repeat spawners are the big fish we get. 20, 25 pounds. The state record salmon is over 30 pounds. They're known as the king of sport fish because they're very strong swimmers and jumpers. They'll jump out of the water. They can jump over 10 feet vertical over a waterfall. So
that's where we want to start putting fish, and we're going to put fish all the way down along until we get down around the corner.
Our organization really coalesced around this particular site and this location back in the early 80s when there was a dam that was built here, and our organization fought to have the dam removed because it was a problem for salmon migration and other fisheries migration in this watershed, and we turned what we call a problem into a solution. We took the facility and redesigned it and turned it into a hatchery and an outreach center.
welcome to the Pleasant River Fish Hatchery. This is a volunteer-built fish hatchery that's been in operation here since 1992. Since 1992, we've been raising unfed Atlantic salmon fry to be stocked into a variety of Downeast rivers. We've done about 50,000 a year since that time, so we've raised quite a few fish here. Starting 2 years ago, we decided that we were going to get involved in a research project that we've set up in the other room. We split the hatchery in half, and we now are running an experimental project in the other room and still raising unfed fry from January till May in here. So this area in here is where we're doing our liming research project. So the idea with this project is really to be able to compare whether the growth and survival of the fish in the ambient river water to the fish in the buffered water. We hope that we'll see differences between in growth and survival. We'll say that these fish in the buffered water will grow faster than the fish in the ambient river water. And then ultimately our real interest is when we do the saltwater challenge test, we expect that we'll see a better survival of these buffered fish than the ambient river water fish. And that will be sort of conclusive evidence that in fact the chemistry of the river is inhibiting these populations. We're also looking at multiple stressors in this river. We also have pesticides that may be combining with the low pH, may be causing problems for salmon. This research will lay the groundwork for actual in-stream liming projects. So we're doing it in here in a controlled environment. The next stage would then be to raise the funding to do a full-scale in-stream liming project where we would actually, as they've done in Norway, install a liming doser on the side of the river. We hope that this would help these salmon survive and grow in the river.
The Downeast Salmon Federation is protecting habitats and beautiful locations along our rivers here in eastern Maine through the Downeast Rivers Land Trust program. This program is working to protect areas like this here where the public comes to enjoy the rivers. This is also one of the most productive salmon habitats on the river. This is the Narraguegas that we're on here right now. And other rivers that we're working on are the Machias, the East Machias, the Denny's, Tunk Stream, Narraguegas, Pleasant, throughout the region here in Washington and Hancock County, in eastern Hancock County. We have town parks that we've established in the town of Columbia at Saco Falls on the Pleasant River, for instance. We've created a town park there in cooperation with the town. We're working up in Township 25 at the Machias River Wigwams, long famous as a fishing hole. Ted Williams and others fished that many years, and many people still continue to fish it. We're protecting places for people and for fish and wildlife. Downeast Rivers Land Trust now protects about 2,000 acres on these rivers, and this includes portage trails, this includes public access points for fishing and canoeists. There are many reasons why the work that we're doing is important to the community. These are the last remaining salmon rivers for Atlantic salmon in the United States. Here in East Machias, there's a lot of change happening. You can see the old railway has been transitioned over to a trail right here alongside of our building. The Downeast Salmon Federation has taken ownership of the former Bangor Hydroelectric Generator Station. We're now calling it the East Machias Aquatic Research Center. It's up and running. We have salmon here that we're raising and releasing to the East Machias River. You can see in the background the solar panels. We're running this off of alternative energy. We're being very creative. We're super insulating this building. And we're making what was a sow's ear into a purse, we think, a silk purse here in East Machias. The river behind me is one of the best salmon rivers in eastern North America, Atlantic salmon rivers. And these pools that you see were the best salmon fishing pools on this river, well-known, famous fishing places. And we think in the future we're going to be able to bring it all back. So inside the center, we're beginning to put the infrastructure together to do the work in order to raise the fish that we want to ultimately put into this river. And you can see the big plans here for the future include water quality classroom, where students from the local schools and the university can come and help us answer some of the questions around our fisheries and our water quality. We'll have an archives for the historical information which we've been collecting for many years, that we can keep the information safe there. We'll have offices for researchers and students and employees, a boardroom. Downstairs we'll have a very large visitors center, an interpretive center that will be focused on keeping the community involved with their rivers and with their fisheries. There'll be ways in which the community can participate. Volunteers help us stock fish. They come in and help feed the fish. There's many things that people can do out there on the rivers to help us keep an eye on things and make sure that the rivers are clean and they're kept that way for future generations. Here you can see some of the fish that our volunteers have been raising. These are Atlantic salmon. These are actually landlocked strain salmon. This is a test run of our facility this year. And these fish will all be stocked in the East Machias watershed. We've stocked about 20,000 this year.
But when you look at organizations like the Downeast Salmon Federation, they're trying to tackle all the problems. And the problems of this: habitat's being taken care of quite well down here. We have conservation easements, we have land trusts, and we raise fish at the hatchery, and we study water chemistry at the hatchery. And one of the best things we do at the hatchery, or the Columbia Falls Salmon Resource Center, is educate.
And when they come back, I expect them to be about that long, about 10 pounds.
I'm known throughout Washington County as the salmon guy, the salmon dude, the salmon man, and when I come to class, the kids are excited. So it's really fun for me. And education is the only way we're going to save salmon. I believe that people want to do the right thing, but don't understand the complexity of ecology. Don't understand how all the different things we do can affect the salmon.
If we don't have people knowing about the fish, about the habitat, I think there'll be a steady decline in the numbers of fish that we eventually will get. So educating children is the best thing we can do.
We don't have time to wait in terms of our fisheries, and what we've lost is phenomenal. We have an opportunity to bring something back. We have clean water here. We have wild rivers without dams, and we have an opportunity to bring something back that could be of real value to the community.
I think there's people who care because they want to fish. There's some people who care just, it's sort of an umbrella species. If the salmon are here, we know the river is healthy, and people care about that. They want to, just knowing the salmon is there helps me sleep better at night, you know?
I think 10 years from now, we'll be able to say that Atlantic salmon are here to stay and that we're not going to lose these populations.
I would love it if they were healthy enough that I could take one home and do the traditional 4th of July barbecue. In Downeast, Maine, the tradition is fresh peas and salmon on the grill for 4th of July. So that would be what I'd like to see. My goal is ultimately that my son can go salmon fishing.